They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and today I am imitating, or at least copying, another photographer's technique. That photographer is Pep Ventosa, and his technique involves shooting a subject from many different angles and then bringing that all together, blending and merging to create pieces of art, impressionist images, things that just look completely different to probably anything else you've ever seen. Now, this is a technique that involves a lot of work on the computer. So today's video is going to be in two parts. Part one is going to be me out taking some pictures. Part two is going to be me on the computer doing the work to blend them all together and hopefully come up with an image that looks nice. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Pep Ventosa shoots a lot of different types of subjects for his artwork, but he is perhaps best known for his trees in the round. Now, as the name suggests, this involves him shooting those multiple images by going all the way around a tree. And it's that I am aiming to do my own take on today. Now, the reason I'm saying it's my own take is because whenever I see these kind of images done of trees, they're almost always done kind of stepped back a little bit with the entire tree, you know, in the frame and some of the background in as well. But I've chosen to come back to the beautiful Amazones ficus tree that I photographed here a couple of months ago, which means I'm going to be doing my round under that canopy. Now, the good thing about trying to do it a little bit differently is, of course, if it works, then my image will be a little bit different to what everybody else has done. The bad thing about doing it a bit differently, it might not work at all. But we won't know till we get in there and do some photography and get it back on the computer. So let's get inside, have a look around. I'll talk through my thoughts about actually shooting all of the images, and we'll see what we can do. So I'm now under the canopy of the tree. I love this tree, it's really beautiful, and I think it has a lot of potential, so you're going to be seeing it in other videos, I think, going forwards. But for now, I want to concentrate on this particular technique, Pep Ventosa technique. And I know that as I go around the tree, I'm going to want to keep a constant distance from the trunk, because I'm going to want to have that trunk about the same size in every image that I shoot. I think it's unlikely that I'm going to go all the way around the tree, because I can get, you know, a distance from the trunk, you know, sort of probably 2/3 of the circuit of the tree, but over the back I'd have to be a lot closer, so that's not going to work too well for maintaining that constant distance. I'm also going to have to be careful, because a lot of these big heavy branches coming in, if I have the camera too high, I think they're going to be too dominant in the scene, and I don't think that's going to work, so I'm going to have the camera lower down. My first thoughts are to shoot this with, you know, maybe the 11-22 lens at 11mm, although, you know, I'm thinking it might end up being the fisheye. So what I'm going to do is have a little walk around, try and get a feel for how much of the distance around I want to shoot and how many images I'm going to shoot. I know when Pep Ventosa does this, he shoots, you know, maybe 100 or more images, so I've heard. But I've also been told it's better the first time you do this not to go too mad, because there is a lot to be done afterwards in processing the images, and obviously if you've got a lot, it's going to be much harder to do. So maybe, you know, maybe 30 or 40 images, I don't know. So I'm going to take a little wander around with the camera and just kind of get a feel for what I can do with this. I think the fisheye is the way to go on this. At 11 mil, which is what, 18 millimeter equivalent on a full frame, the trunk is just too big in the frame. It's too dominant. It's not getting me enough of the canopy in. So I think I'm going to use the fisheye. I'm going to kind of walk around, and I think probably somewhere between 30 and 40 images. Whether I'll use them all or not, I don't know. Probably. The other challenge that I've got is the sunlight coming through from the sky, because it is quite bright. It's a very contrasty scene. I think it's inevitable I'm going to have some blown highlights in the sky, but you know what, I don't really care, because this is going to be with it being merged, probably most of the sky is going to be filled in with other bits of the tree as I'm merging it all together anyway. So I'm not too worried about some blown highlights in the sky, but I do want to make sure that I don't have the shadows clipped too much, because I'm going to want to bring, you know, some of the shapes and textures out in the tree trunk as I'm and in the branches probably. And I think I'm probably going to shoot this sort of between knee and waist high. Feels about right to avoid too much domination from those branches up above. So let's start the walk around. I'm going to start kind of here and walk all the way around there. Probably do, I don't know, like a couple of paces and then take an image, a couple of paces and take an image, and see how many we end up with. Okay, try to make sure it's nice and level, and trying to make a mental note of exactly where the trunk appears in the frame. Yeah, blowing a few highlights, but the shadows should be okay. I've missed a bit just there because I can't get far enough away from the tree for it to work. I have shot 34 images going pretty much all of the way around the tree. There's one area, maybe about a 45-degree segment, that I couldn't shoot because I couldn't get far enough away from the tree for it to work. I've now captured my images, and it's time to get them back onto the computer and see if we can create this Pep Ventosa effect with the Methones ficus. Okay, I've got all the images back on the computer now. One of the challenges with shooting with the fisheye lens is it can actually be quite difficult to see exactly what you're composing, particularly when you're trying to kind of align things in the image. And I've got a few compositions that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. So I've deleted 4, but I've got 30 images left, and I think that's going to be enough to practice the Pep Ventosa technique. The images have been through some very basic processing in Lightroom, lifted the shadows, reduced the highlights, and I've added a tiny little bit of vibrance, not too much, because I think I'll probably want to do that at the end of the process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open all of those images as layers in Photoshop, and then we'll jump into Photoshop and start doing the actual blending bit. Okay, I've got all of my layers now in Photoshop, and what I've done is I've hidden all of the layers, basically turned off the visibility down here on everything apart from the bottom layer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on the next layer up. Now, of course, what that does is immediately replaces it, but that's okay. Now that I've got that visible, I'm going to reduce the opacity on it, probably to, I don't know, about sort of 40-odd%, something like that, so that I can see the layer underneath it. I'm going to hit Command T to enter the free transform tool. That would be Control T on a PC. And then I'm just going to move it around until I've kind of got the tree trunk kind of generally aligned, so it's in roughly the same place. So now that I've moved that, I'm going to bring the opacity up to, I don't know, probably about just over 60%, 62, 63. And then I'm just going to play around with the blend modes, because there's loads of blend modes. So for example, this is normal. I could go dissolve, done like that. Darken, yeah, no. Multiply, no, too dark. Colour burn, too dark. Linear burn, too dark. Darker colour, maybe. Lighten. Lighten might work. It's a job to tell with just the two layers. Screen might work. So I'm going to put that one, no, I'm going to go lighten on this first one. So that's my first combination of the two. Now there may be things in here that I don't think work so well. So for example, looking up here, we've got these sort of dark blue or dark bluey green bits up here, which are where they've painted over the ends of pruned branches. But I can take those out later, that's no problem. If indeed I need to, because putting additional layers over the top may eventually get rid of them anyway. Put the next layer on. Let's bring it back to there. With the next layer on, I'm going to bring the opacity down again, just so that I can see it. Command T again, or Control T on a PC. Just move it around until it's looks like it's in the right place. Yes, you could use something like auto align layers, but this is more about how it feels than kind of a technical alignment. So that's in there. Put the opacity on there. I did the last one at just over 60, so I'll do this one at about sort of 57, something like that. And then we'll play around with the blend modes again. Dissolve, no. Some of them are too bright. Lighter colour. Overlay. Overlay's a bit dark, but that might work okay a bit later. Let's try soft light. Now, of course, the thing with this is, although I'm doing this first pass through where I'm setting the opacity and the blend mode, I might well come back, in fact I certainly will come back later on and play around with that, so it might end up looking very different. Let's do another layer. Onto that, bring the opacity down. Go into free transform and just move it around to about there. That feels about right. And then I'll put the opacity on this one at, I don't know, about 55 maybe, 53. And again, we'll just play around with the blend modes until I get one. Actually, I've got like darker colour for this one. We'll give that a go. But I might bring the opacity down just a fraction more. And we're starting to get an effect appearing here. Let's do another one. I think this one, I didn't compose it quite as well. Bring the opacity down. Command T, line it up. About there, I think. And I'll put the opacity up to probably about 50%, something like that. And then again, we'll just have a little play with the blend modes: soft light, hard light, vivid light, linear light, pin light. No, I don't think so. Hard mix, difference, exclusion, subtract. I think we're probably looking more at the top ones. So darken, multiply, colour burn, linear burn, darker colour. I quite like darker colour. The other thing that I'm noticing here is I am starting to lose a bit more detail in the trunk. So what I could do on some of these although I won't do it just yet, is I could go in and put a layer mask in, and then just take a black brush, maybe at sort of a fairly low opacity, and hide some of that to bring some of the original detail back. But I probably won't do that just yet, because I think I need to get the rest of the layers done and have a play around with them. So I've got to do this obviously for all of the 30 layers. Then I'm probably going to want to go back and maybe play around with some of the opacities and blend modes to try and get a different effect. I should then crop it, maybe add some vibrance and saturation, and then I'm probably just going to want to leave it for a couple of hours and then come back and have another look at it. So I might save a copy of it with all the changes that I've made, and then go and do another version of it and see which one looks the best. Now obviously that's going to take me quite a long time, and you're probably not going to want to sit and watch all of that. So I think we'll do like a little bit of a editing montage and show you the final image. My first attempt at the Pep Ventosa technique, and I'm actually pretty happy with the result for a first go. It's not technically very difficult, although it's a lot of work, but like a lot of things that aren't technically very difficult, actually making the end result look good is another story altogether. And although I'm fairly happy with what I've got, I'm sure it's not up to the standard of the things that Pep Ventosa himself can achieve. So please do go and check out his website. I've put a link to that in the video description, so you can go and have a look at how it should be done. But as I said, I'm pretty happy with the result that I've got here. And I'm going to wrap this video up then. I hope you've enjoyed it. Something a little bit different. I've got no idea what the next video is going to be because I haven't actually even planned it yet. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Bye.